Welcome to our English podcast. Let's practice speaking together.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Just Speak English podcast. I'm Chase.
And I'm Hailey. So glad you're here with us today.
Today, we're talking about something that I think every English learner needs, and almost nobody teaches directly. How to talk about your dreams and goals in English. Not just, I want to travel or I want a better job, but actually expressing your ambitions, your vision for the future, your deepest motivations, with vocabulary that captures what you really mean.
And this connects to so many things we've already talked about in this podcast: purpose, confidence, self improvement. Today, we're giving those big ideas a practical language layer: real phrases, real structures, real vocabulary you can use starting today.
Subscribe if you're new here, and let's get into it.
5 words and phrases for today.
First, aspiration. An aspiration is a strong desire or ambition to achieve something great. It goes beyond a simple wish. One of my biggest aspirations is to build something that actually helps people.
Second, milestone. A milestone is a significant event or achievement that marks progress along the way to a larger goal. Getting my first job in English was a huge milestone in my journey.
Third, vision. In this context, vision means a clear mental image of the future you want to create for yourself. She has a very strong vision of where she wants to be in 5 years, and that clarity drives everything she does.
Fourth, pursue. To pursue something means to actively follow and work toward it with sustained effort. He decided to pursue his passion for design, even though everyone around him thought it was risky.
And fifth, setback. A setback is a problem or difficulty that slows down your progress toward a goal. Every setback is temporary. What matters is whether you keep going after it. Okay. Aspiration, milestone, vision. Pursue, setback. Let's go. Hailey, let me start with something personal. When someone asks you in English, what are your goals? Or where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do you find that easy or hard to answer?
Honestly, hard. And I think it's hard for 2 reasons. The first is the language. I don't always have the vocabulary to express something nuanced, like an aspiration versus a plan versus a dream. The second is more personal. Those questions make you actually face what you want, which is sometimes uncomfortable.
That's so real. And I think those two things, the language barrier and the emotional barrier, often get confused. People think they can't talk about their goals in English because they don't have the words. But sometimes they struggle because they haven't fully faced what their goals actually are.
So let's do both today. Give people the vocabulary and encourage them to actually think about what they're working toward. Starting with, how do you actually open this kind of conversation in English? What are the natural ways this topic comes up?
It comes up in interviews. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? It comes up in casual conversation. So, what are you working on lately? It comes up with friends. What's your plan for the next few years? And it comes up in self-reflection, writing in a journal, recording yourself, setting your own direction.
And the vocabulary for each of those contexts is slightly different. In a professional setting, you might say, one of my key goals is to develop my leadership skills. Or, I'm currently working toward a transition into a more strategic role. In a casual setting, You might say, I'm really trying to get to a place where I can work for myself. Or, my big thing right now is saving enough to travel for a year.
I love that distinction. Professional goals sound structured and concrete. Personal goals sound more like a feeling you're moving toward. And both are valid. You just need different vocabulary for each.
What about talking about long term dreams versus short term goals? Because those are very different things emotionally, and I think they need different language.
Great distinction. Short-term goals are usually specific and measurable. I want to finish this English course by the end of the year. Or, my goal for this month is to have one English conversation every day. You can talk about those with phrases like, I'm currently working on, my plan for the next few months is, or by the end of the year, I want to.
Long term dreams are bigger and less defined. They're about a direction, a feeling, a version of yourself you're moving toward. For those, you'd use phrases like, what I really want is, someday I'd love to, my vision for the future is, or what I'm ultimately working toward is. These phrases signal that you're talking about something bigger than a task. You're talking about a life direction.
And there's a beautiful phrase in English for when you're not quite sure yet. I'm still figuring it out. It's honest, it's humble, and it's completely valid. Not everyone has a clear vision at every stage of life. And I'm still figuring it out is one of the most mature things you can say about your future.
I love that because there's so much pressure in interviews, on social media, in conversations to have it all figured out. And I'm still figuring it out, but here's the direction I'm moving in is actually a much more honest and interesting answer than a rehearsed 5 year plan that you don't really believe in.
What about talking about past dreams that didn't work out, setbacks? Because that's also a part of the conversation around goals that people often don't know how to handle in English.
Useful phrases there. It didn't go as planned, but I learned a lot from it. That door closed, but it pointed me toward something better. Looking back, that setback was actually what pushed me to pursue what I really wanted. These phrases turn a story of failure into a story of growth, which is always more interesting and more true to how life actually works.
And notice that all of those phrases keep the energy forward looking. You acknowledge what didn't work and you immediately connect it to what came next or what you learned. In English conversation, people respond much better to that forward energy than to someone who dwells on what went wrong.
That connects directly to our episode on Steve Jobs, actually. Connecting the dots looking backwards. Every setback is a dot, and from where you're standing right now, you can't see where it connects, but it almost always does.
And one more thing, talking about someone else's goals. Because sometimes you want to ask a friend or a colleague about their dreams and aspirations, and you want to do it in a way that feels genuine rather than intrusive. Phrases like, what are you working toward these days? Or, is there something you've always wanted to do? Or, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? These open, wonderful conversations without putting pressure on anyone.
That last one is my favorite. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? It bypasses all the practical objections, the money, the time, the risk, and gets straight to what someone actually wants. And people light up when you ask it, because almost nobody asks them that.
I'm going to start asking everyone that question from now on.
Same. It's basically a shortcut to the most interesting conversation you'll have all week.
And I want to add something about the act of writing your goals down in English, because I think this is one of the most underrated practices for language learners who also want to grow personally.
Oh, absolutely. There's something that happens when you write in English instead of your native language. You slow down, you choose words more carefully. And because the language feels slightly less automatic, you sometimes end up expressing things more clearly and honestly than you would in your first language.
It's similar to what we talked about in the episode on emotional vocabulary. Sometimes a second language gives you just enough distance to say something that feels too big or too raw in your mother tongue. Goals and dreams can fall into that category too. Writing, I want to build something meaningful in English can feel more possible somehow than saying it in the language you grew up with.
And practically speaking, try spending 5 minutes this week writing your goals in English. Not a perfect essay, just a few sentences. This year I want to. And my biggest aspiration right now is one milestone I'm working toward is it's English practice and self reflection at the same time. 2 things for the price of one.
2 things for the price of one. That's basically the whole philosophy of this podcast, honestly.
It really is. Learn English while becoming a better version of yourself. That's the deal.
And I think there's something worth saying here about the relationship between language and identity. When you start being able to express your deepest aspirations in English, not just order coffee or introduce yourself, but actually talk about what you want your life to look like, something shifts. You start to feel like a full person in that language, not just a learner, a person with a past, a vision, and a direction. And that shift, when it happens, is one of the best feelings in language learning.
That's beautifully said, Chase. And I think that's exactly what we're building toward on this podcast. Not just fluency, but the kind of depth in English that lets you show up fully as yourself in any conversation, in any room, in any country.
Quick vocab recap: aspiration, a strong desire to achieve something great. Milestone, a significant achievement that marks progress. Vision, a clear mental image of the future you want. Pursue, to actively follow and work towards something. And setback, a difficulty that slows your progress but doesn't stop it.
Key phrases from today for short-term goals. I'm currently working on, and my plan for the next few months is for long-term dreams. What I'm ultimately working toward is, and someday I'd love to. For setbacks, it didn't go as planned, but I learned a lot. And when you're not sure yet, I'm still figuring it out.
Comment below. What is one dream or goal you haven't said out loud yet in English? Write it in the comments, saying it is the first step to pursuing it.
Next episode, we're going somewhere new. Stay tuned for that one.
Thank you so much for listening today. Subscribe if you haven't yet. It's free and it really helps us keep this going. See you in the next one.
Bye, everyone.
Bye!